Well, it's a beautiful night for some binocular stargazing. And maybe y'all are thinking about a telescope. Hey, everybody, I'm Mark Marquette. So glad that you're with us to stay star curious today on Monday, November 25th, 2024, just 30 days away from Christmas and celebrating that holiday. But if you celebrate Hanukkah, well, wishes to you, Festivus. Of course, that's a joke, but whatever you celebrate, everybody likes getting in the holiday spirit. And maybe you're thinking about a gift for that stargazer or a telescope for yourself. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today on Stay Star Curious. Let me push my button there so I can communicate with you all. Here's the 401 on telescopes, but I'm also going to push binoculars. Everybody has a pair of binoculars. Probably they watch sporting events or birding. There's more birders in America than there are amateur astronomers for sure. So we're going to talk about using binoculars, things to buy, things to think about, good inexpensive gifts for your somebody that is young and wanting to get into astronomy. And I'll caution you about what telescopes not to buy. As soon as I say hello to Marty Winkles on our Streamlabs there, Marty, you bought a Christmas telescope over time, I believe, a time or two. How are you doing? You were up early, and we got a picture of an aftermath of a rocket launch.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was, but wasn't totally sure. That's why I took the picture and sent it to you.
Yeah, we'll see that here in just a second. A 4:30 launch, but I don't know if it went at 4:30, Marty, or later. And speaking of the holidays, no, this was a birthday gift from you, Marty. That's one of my favorite shirts. Now, thank you very much. Very cool astronomy and Apollo mixed on there. And if you're a friend of Marty, like Gary Gerald is, he gives the greatest gifts at Christmas to his family. I know I've been a recipient of those. And Gary, good to see you, man. Space Mitch Rothman is over at Lake Wales, uh, towards the center of the state, and Carlton Bailey. Uh, Carlton Bailey says he's at car shopping. So sorry about that. Dave Stangy and Tom Usiak. Hello, hello. We missed Tommy. You live talking to Carlton Friday, so you might want to reprise that if you haven't already. But yes, it's the holiday time. You know, telescopes in astronomy, everyone thinks they have to have one. But astronomy is a very spiritual hobby. It's very difficult. It really is. Think about looking through a microscope in the daytime and all involved with that if you had a biology class or had to take a science class. It's at night. The weather is usually not ideal all the time, meaning it's too hot or too cold. And yes, too hot down here, folks. I've been sweating, dripping off me at 1 in the morning, and mosquitoes just hovering all over. So it is a commitment. So a telescope of any amount of money is a financial commitment because I'm going to tell you right out, do not buy a cheap telescope at one of the big box stores. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. What I want to impress upon you is this is like jewelry, like a gun, like uh, something that would be handed down, a piece of artwork. That's what a telescope is. And if you buy a good one and invest $3,000 to $1,000 or more, it's something that you'll have for a long time, and you get involved in it. It's something special to know how to use, and it's also something special to be known to be doing that all your life, like I have. I think it's very special that when I meet friends from over 50 years ago, they want to know, are you still looking at the stars and are you still taking pictures? Well, not pictures so much anymore because our cameras in our pockets, computers, those cell phones have replaced a lot of the need for a professional camera. But anyway, I just want to impress upon you the night sky is something that you just don't flippantly go outside and watch it like a 30-minute sitcom that you've seen reruns over and over. You go out and absorb it. And when you buy equipment, you hunters understand what I'm talking about. You're just not going to go out there and start shooting and bring game home. It is a process, and sometimes it doesn't work out the way you planned it. And but with astronomy, but you're going to see things whether you're hunting in the stars or hunting for deer, pheasant, whatever type of game you might be hunting. The rewards are being in the environment of the outdoors and seeing nature react and interact. And the stars are like that. And of course, there's a lot of planes to see, occasional meteor or two in an hour of looking up. But I don't see a meteor every hour I look up. I rarely see a meteor. For every 5 times I go out and look for an hour, I might see 1 or 2 meteors. But that's rewarding in itself. So let's look here at, go to my slides there to advertise today's show. Cliff Watson, good morning to you. He's in Australia. And Tom did watch the show. Thank you, Friday. Appreciate that. Carlton Bailey did a good job. And Robert Law is watching tonight in Scotland, and he loves small telescopes. Indeed, the biggest is not always the best. The biggest telescope, sometimes, how are you going to lug it around? And the older you get, the more that's a consideration. I want to look at some things, but I don't need a 20-inch Dobsonian reflector. A nice 3-inch refractor is fine with me. I can carry that around. So, want to remind everybody this Thanksgiving week that we will be closed Thursday through Sunday next week. Or we're always closed on Sunday, and we'll open up next Monday. So, and I'm looking forward to seeing my granddaughters and my daughter up in Tennessee over the holidays. So, like you, I'm wishing everybody safe travels. And we're having our astronaut memorial at Sandpoint Park in downtown Titusville on January 26th. That's a Sunday at 1 o'clock. Andy Allen is our guest astronaut, and this is a very patriotic and reverent service that will bring you to tears if you pay attention to what's going on. As a flower is put on the bronze tribute to the 3 Apollo, 7 Challenger, and 7 Columbia astronauts, and they put an apple on Krista McCullough's there. So, and Cliff Watson says, how many times do I put the scope up and an hour later, clouds? Yeah, it will attract those clouds, Cliffy. I guarantee you that. That's a joke around my neighborhood, my household, that if you want to get cloudy, just have Mark put the telescope outside. But you got to live with it. We can't see through those clouds except radar telescopes. Going to unleash that to the world tomorrow, maybe tonight. Shuttlefest 4. We have 3 astronauts committed to Shuttlefest 4, April 11th, 12th, and 13th. Friday night is going to be a bonus meet and greet whoever astronauts we can get to come to it. And I'm pretty sure Don Thomas and maybe Joe Tanner will be there. We also have Eileen Collins throughout the weekend. So for your $90, and you can pre-register now on the American Space Museum website, for $90 you can get all that and more to come. We're 5 months out. We're layering new things on there. We've got a commitment from space artist Chris Calley, my co-chair for this event, Mike Leinbach, Jay Honeycutt, author Jonathan Ward, photographer Tom Usiak, author David Chudwin, and space hipster Emily Carney have all pledged to come there, all right, to the American Space Museum's 4th celebration of the shuttle spacecraft worker. And we're going to pick up another astronaut or two, I guarantee it. About 90% sure of another one, but we'll see if I won't say until they're committed, meaning we've sent them the email that says we will pay your expenses to come to Shuttlefest 4. So we're very pleased at how this has gained legs and momentum. And yes, Marty Winkle has offered to give a private tour of LEM number 9 out there at the Saturn V Center, Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. They'll buy their own ticket to the Space Center, and we will make arrangements for you to go, take a bus out there on the Space Center tour, and you can go back anytime. And when you go back, Terry White will be waiting for you. to do a talk at the um, where's he giving a talk? The shuttle
Atlantis.
in Atlantis. Yeah, Marty, say hello. I know Steve Jokums is very excited that you're doing that. Hit that USAC family microphone and tell them what you're going to do.
Well, we're going to talk about the lunar module, and I can even try and answer any question you have. So Steve may want to try and stump me.
But yes, but you're all going to be adopted cousins of Marty.
Oh yeah, forgot about that. Yeah, I can't officially give stories out there to the general public, but I can do relatives. So you're all my cousins.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, Marty offered this, and Terry White jumped on board that. We'll be carpooling out there, probably leave the hotel at 9 o'clock, I would say, Marty, and get out there at 10. Whatever Marty says, they're putting it together. So we're got a great event planned, and we're over the moon that you all are so receptive about it. The first 125 people will get in, and then we have to cut it off because we don't have room. Probably have another 20 that, are speakers and comped and stuff like that. So, but we're going to take care of you and have a lot of fun. And Shuttle Fest 5 will probably be at a beach hotel, Cocoa Beach, and so to accommodate more of you. But I don't necessarily think bigger is better in all kinds of things. And this is going to be talked about for years because it's going to be very cozy and pretty much fellowship. Speaking of fellowship, there is myself and Pat Atkins and Carlton Bailey. Carlton Bailey's in the blue shirt and Patrick Atkins on the right. And this was at the Rocket Ranch reunion Saturday, where we're privileged to have a booth there, and I take pictures of everybody, and we have a big time. We being all the 300 shuttle workers and Apollo workers out there too. So thank you, Pat. He is now a docent here at our museum and going to help us on events. Well, how many days old is the moon, Marty? I forgot to look that up, but I have an app for that, and you can too. And my app is called Phases of the Moon on my Android, and the moon is 25 days old. So, where's it going to be in the night sky? 25 days old. It's going to be in the morning sky. It's going to be rising with a little before the sun. You early morning risers are going to see it. Gorgeous. It rises at 1:55 a.m. Sets at 2 in the afternoon. You might see it against the blue sky. And so it's a thin crescent, 25 days old on the left, going to new moon, which is 0 days. Okay. So Dave Stengy's hoping his grandson will come early so he can come to Shuttle Fest. Julie's not going to allow that unless you buy her some jewelry, is what I suggest. So, yeah, it is time for the Buckeyes to take on that team from up north there. That's the big Ohio State-Michigan game this weekend. And they could beat us. Anything could happen, but not when we're ranked 2 in the country, please. All right, Marty, let's see here. We took care of some of that stuff, some astronomy stuff kicking off here. Let's talk about telescopes. I get asked every Christmas for decades now, what's the best telescope to buy? And the first thing I say is never buy a cheap telescope from a big box store, okay? I don't care who they are. It's made of plastic, all right? The $200 price point or even $100. The plastic means when you look at the moon, edges are going to be bluish because the plastic is refracting all kinds of horrible light. If you're in the cold, the plastic knobs and so forth will break in the cold. This is not something to just buy, and the tripod's usually not that steady. You get what you pay for, okay? You get what you pay for. These I would recommend for looking at land objects, because at night you're hard on stuff. It's hard not to be hard on stuff in the night when you're you're groping at knobs and things like that. So recommend against any big box store. If you're going to buy something cheap, buy a pair of binoculars. Okay, but again, you look at that lens of the binoculars. Let me grab this pair here. And I think you'll see on any binoculars, let me make the picture, a bluish tint. Okay, you want to see kind of a bluish tint in there, but you don't want to see milky white. If you see milky white, that is plastic. The bluish tint is coatings, and I know both of these are Russian binoculars that don't have a whole lot of bluish tint in them, but they're very clear.
Yeah, you can see some.
Yeah, you see some coating there. But anything that looks milky white, nope, that is plastic, my friend. This is a refractor. Okay. Can I get the... See, that's got a bluish tint on it there, the refractor. So this is not plastic, all right? And that's what you want. This was a kind of what Galileo used type of telescope. So, but if you don't have a good pair of binoculars, look around at that, and then what you really want to get is, I'll show you here in a second, is a strap to put the binoculars on. And we'll get into binoculars here in just a second. I'm getting out of sequence. So, again, emphasize the beauty of stargazing. You want to have a lot of things with you. You just don't jump in. If you're going to have a nice telescope like this is a refractor, and the other kind is a reflector with a mirror. So the lens is at the end of this one. And with a nice mount like that, that could be a $3,000 telescope there. That's no $300 telescope, all right? Probably a motor drive in this that they have computers in them that can move the telescope around to objects so you don't have to star hop and find them. There, the lady's got a pair of binoculars, and you put your elbows in, not flying out there because that moves around, but it's still hard to steady binoculars. And I'm going to show you two things that you must buy. And binocular stargazing is very popular. You can see all kinds of things if you know where to look. The faint nebula, galaxies, and star clusters that are part of what we call the Messier catalog of 110 or so objects that are a must-see in the sky. We'll see about the Messier objects here in just a second. But that's what you look for. But everything in the sky looks faint and fuzzy. Grayish at best, a little bit of white. You don't see color in the nebulas or galaxies. You just see a fuzzy gray object. So everyone wants to take pictures because that's where you see the colors and the more definition. And that is not easy. It can, and the way they do it today is by combining dozens of 30-second images. All right, 10 30-second images is 300 minutes, is 300 seconds is 5 minutes. That way you're not tracking the whole time. I'm not going to get detailed into that. That's where you get into the money and then get serious about it. And then it's like being serious about your hunting or your fishing. Fishing's another analogy. You can fish with a cane pole, some string and a hook and worms, and I've had a $10,000 rod and reel in my hand, all right, and probably got more enjoyment out of the cane pole with the type of thing. Yes, there I am on the left in 1966, I believe, and still in touch with the other gentleman with the nice sweater on there, Craig Shotland. That's my first telescope. And look, I have on the back of it, Marty, a piece of wood that I put a telescope up to, a camera up to. I wanted to take pictures right away, just like you do. That was a J.C. Penney's telescope that my mom bought me for Christmas when I was 8 years old. And then this fella, who I've lost track of, that's the telescope we made and ground the mirror in junior high school. A very good 6-inch telescope. So I go way back last century with this. And I remember that cherry tree behind me there. Very good big cherries on that. Hurd Avenue in Findlay, Ohio. Well, Marty does have a question, and I asked him to be related to astronomy, so here it is.
What was the first shuttle Space Lab mission devoted to one discipline, astrophysics? I think that should be fairly easy. I think Mikey Haddad talked about it, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. In fact, we talked about this at Shuttle Fest 3. Here's my thank you, Steve Jokums. Oh, I'm going to go backwards there. Steve, thank you for this. He brought me this for my birthday. And Steve Jokums, thank you very much. That is a good that's a good drink of coffee there. And I appreciate that. And I've held hundreds of mugs, Marty, in my hands. You know that through our processing some of our eBay stuff. I've never seen this one at all. And it's got the orbiters around the top, except Challenger, because he bought it after that. And but I love that already. Beautiful, classy mug there, just like Steve Jokums there. So appreciate that. And I think it goes good with this hat. What do you think, Marty? My Don Thomas autographed Ohio State Buckeye hat there. Got to get the good karma in. We'll have a show tomorrow, and Marty might do a reprise rerun on Wednesday, but I'm going to be on the road Christmas, Thanksgiving Eve. So, all right, we were talking about telescopes. So, yeah, I think I got one more picture there. So that is first shuttle Space Lab mission devoted to one discipline, astrophysics. What was the number of it? Maybe you'll throw in an astronaut or two. And it was the 5th Space Lab, I think. Or maybe it was the 6th. Maybe there was 5 of them before there. Let's see. So, since Galileo, that was the question Marty was thinking about. Who was the first person to use a telescope to look at the stars? And that'd be this woodcut of Galileo there. His very simple like this. Hans Lippershey supposedly invented the telescope to look for ship sails as they came up from the flat ocean, and they would see the top of the crow's nest first, and there could be a colorful flag up there, and then they knew that in like the next 12 hours that ship would take it to dock, and everyone would all hands on board because a ship was coming from somewhere. And as it got closer, it got higher. And that's how they knew the Earth was round. So, some of them by watching the ship mass come up from over the horizon, and then you saw more of the mass, and then finally you saw the ship. So let's see here. Steve Jokums has got his guess in there, and you all can keep guessing. Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto. Not with this telescope, but with one not actually that much bigger. He was an amateur astronomer. This is a typical reflecting telescope where the mirror is where Clyde's legs are. And of course, the reflecting telescope is just a mirror. It is a convex mirror that takes the light and puts it out here in front of you. There where you put an eyepiece, where he's got an eyepiece there. And another telescope, the Finder telescope. Most telescopes, you need a Finder telescope of low power, like binoculars. All right, we'll talk about binoculars here in a second. And there I am with the original telescope and a 6-inch dynoscope that I have that telescope still. Not the same one, but I have that scope. I bought it because it's very nostalgic for me. Yes, Marty?
Is that a beetle haircut you have on?
It could be, yes, sir. Sure, yeah, you bet. Beetle haircut there. That was when you were in Vietnam, Marty, and that was me in high school. Yeah. So, books. Go to Books A Million. You don't know what to buy that Stargazer. Go to Books A Million and buy them a book. Or buy them Astronomy or Sky and Telescope magazine. Okay, either one. Astronomy's got it's got yellow in it, huh? That's interesting. Yeah, these are the 2 monthly magazines that come out, and they have inside Astronomy's particularly newbie friendly. They have a star chart inside. All right. And even give you the phases of the planets and where to find the planets along the ecliptic here. All these have had these type of things over the years. Over the 50 or 60 or so years I've been getting these magazines. And you've got, and then they're filled with advertising. Filled with advertising. So much advertising on the front and the back. There's a telescope to look at Mars. There's eyepieces and other doodads to buy. So astronomy is a lot like, fishing, hunting, anything that you have fun doing. Even kites. If you're a good kite flyer, you got to have the stuff with it to make it fun. So think about books. These are some of the more popular books out there. Backyard Astronomer by Terence Dickinson. Turn Left at Orion's a very famous book. Night Watch, again, Terry Dickinson's one of the people that goes to a lot of star parties. The Pocket Atlas, that is in different sizes. They'll have star charts and stuff. I'm not going to get into that. We'll talk about star charts on a Stay Star Curious. The Stars by H.A. Rey, that is a book from the 60s. And H.A. Rey sounds familiar to you? Curious George. He is the cartoonist and writer of Curious George, that inquisitive monkey. And binocular astronomy, a whole book devoted just to binoculars that you have can be an astronomical tool. And a wide range of uses for a telescope, okay? A lot of the refractors, not the mirror reflector, a lot of these make good spotting telescopes for terrestrial viewing. And there's a way that you could flip a you can buy a converter so that the image is in upside down, because most telescopes make the image upside down, because to make it right side up takes another lens inside a lens, and every time light passes through a lens it degrades the quality of that. So you just can't look at galaxies. You could look at squirrels, birds, mountains, whatever your heart desires. There's binoculars, come in all different sizes, but they're basically the same shape. They are two refracting telescopes put together with some variations. Now, you've heard of 7 by 35s are the most common. What does 7 by 35 mean? Well, these are 12 by 45s. All right. So the 35 this is 45. That means 45 millimeters across. All right, that's about an inch and a half there, and then you've got not centimeters, millimeters. Okay, centimeters would be 4.5. So here's the other side of it is, see, those are Russian. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Russian optics was really in vogue. And it's really good stuff too. 12 by 45s, the 12 is the amount of power or magnification on the lenses. So the lenses are 45 across, and the power on them is 12. It's kind of hard to hold still, but it's still very cool to look through. These are 60, all right, millimeters across, as opposed to 45. All right, 60 across. And these are magnified 20 times. And your magnification is in the eyepieces right there. I didn't bring any eyepieces to hold with me. But that is the power. And power is a misnomer. A telescope advertises 500 power. Don't ever buy that. It's worthless. I've never used 500 power. Very rarely. In the backyard stargazing, I'm lucky to get up to 250 power. Most of the time, I'm observing around 80 to 200 power, depending on the object. 80 is great on the moon, and 200 is stretching it on the planets, even because of the atmospheric haze and so forth. So the power is the eyepiece that you're using. And I'll show you some pictures of eyepieces here in a minute. Basically, though, the higher the number on an eyepiece, the lower the power it is. And that's the first lens you want to put in a telescope, is the 25 millimeter. because you'll probably have a 25 millimeter. And then you'll have a 12 millimeter. And the 25 is like 80 power, and the 12 is half of 25. So that's going to be 80. That's going to be around 160, 180 power, something like that. And then they'll give you a 6 millimeter lens. That is, you'll never can hold anything still at night to look it through that. It's too much power. Maybe during the daytime at a bird. But and lenses are like fishing uh, uh, lures. You can get a lot of money wrapped in that, from $10 to $1,000. Yeah, Marty.
I have a question from Dave Stange. Will you be telling us where to buy telescopes from and what would be a good brand name of a good starter?
Well, again, that is such a loaded question, but you want to scientific, what's that? Explore Scientific is a good company. I'm not going to say a bunch of other companies because with YouTube and stuff, I'm not getting advertising from them. But you just Google, telescopes, and you'll see several vendors that have several vendors like Orion telescopes. They have they have Ford, Chevy, Kia, whatever. Okay. Some are just focused on Meade. Meade is a big popular one. Celestron and Meade are the two Goliaths of the business. But when I say Goliaths, it's nothing like the fishing industry. There's over 6 million people, I think, that belong to Bass Fishing America. There's not a 1 million amateur astronomers in America, all right? Bowling, fishing, all kinds of things are a lot more popular than stargazing. I think it's amazing they can afford to sell stuff at the prices they do. But Google just Christmas telescopes or whatever, and you'll see a couple places that have catalog style advertising, and they will educate you. It used to be fun to send them a postcard and get these catalogs, and I still have some of the retro ones. All right, and I got a couple good questions there. Dean Babcock talking about a Barlow lens and when to use it. I'll explain that. Wish I'd brought one in here, but glad that you're all interested in that. I'll talk about that when I show some lenses. So they're like, but I know a friend that owns Explore Scientific. That's a good place to start. But again, they're going to have 20 different looking varieties. And the main thing is find out how much it weighs. And they'll have measurements there and see, will it fit in your car, fit on your back porch. All right. Marty John Smith, our docent, I just fixed him up with a $350 telescope he's thrilled with. It's sort of like a refractor that's on a tripod, a good sturdy tripod. It doesn't have a motor on it to move around. It doesn't have any computer on it, but it's a very good quality. And he's looking at the Kennedy Space Center every morning. Stuff going on there. So, okay, let's see here. But different binoculars again. So the best thing you could get if you own binoculars is a binocular mount. You can strap it on. You have a flat bed platform that straps to your tripod, and there's universal screws on all these tripods and stuff. And then you just have a strap that you hold on there. Now that's not as convenient as this little guy. All right. And you photographers will appreciate this. This is an adapter for a camera to put it on a tripod. All right. And every camera, it's binoculars I'm talking about. Every binocular in the center between the two binoculars has a piece of plastic that you pull off, and in the middle of it is a screw. All right. That's a hinge for the two sides of the binocular, and you attach this for $10. This costs $10. You attach that to your binoculars like so. Just screws in there nice and tight. Now you can put this on a tripod. And I have been looking all over for this tripod adapter, this quick release. And you'll appreciate that, Tom Usiak. I have been looking all over for this on my tripod number 2. That's why I put a 2 on it. And it was attached to the bottom of this 2 months ago when I went out looking at the Milky Way. So, it's hard to keep all of my stuff in one sack, but I try. So, but that's the beauty of it, is that fits on a tripod, okay? And now you get the idea. You got a nice tripod, and you're looking around, observing, arms free. The only movement is the celestial stars moving in front of you. Yes, Marty?
Question from Bill Whiting. Mark, what are your thoughts on the new smart photography telescopes?
Well, we'll talk about that, Bill, here in a minute, but I think it's the way to go. And he's talking about, and I'm going to show you a picture of one of that's out there. It looks just like a box. It looks like this. It is no bigger than my tablet, thicker, about like that. It's on a tripod. It has a lens on it. It has all computerized direction, GPS. It knows exactly where it's at. And you can go inside while it's outside, Bill, and watch it download the Orion Nebula in front of your eyes. And we'll talk about that in a minute. They're very affordable now. They've come down in price. They are not a large aperture. They do it over photography and lots of photography quickly. So we'll talk about that. Let's see, here we go. So binoculars on a tripod with that or with this situation is amazing. You can't believe the things you can see. The Orion Nebula is one that's very plain. Double stars. You can quickly put it on the International Space Station, and then with the handle of the tripod, learn how to follow it. It's a lot of fun. And binoculars are really a big deal with a lot of amateur astronomers. It's very relaxing. It's hands-free. And here's a rig that you can put on your lawn chair and make it easy like that. All right. All kinds of telescopes, from the refractor at the top. This is another type of refractor. Look at that mount on it. That is a computerized mount. The mount on this is probably $2,000 on a maybe $4,000 or $5,000 camera. The quality of the lens, a lot of optical specifications that are just way out there is what makes these so expensive. The focusing mechanism isn't just a knob you turn. It's a knob within a knob that can turn even finer, or you have electronics to focus it for you. This little stubby one is very popular. That is a Cassegrain. It is a combination of a lens at the front and a mirror at the back. I own a couple of those. I like those because they're very portable. All right, they're called Schmidt Cassegrain, Cassigraine. That's one to look up, that you get a lot of bang for your buck, and it's actually pretty mobile. And then you've got a big one here in front that looks like a 10-inch Dobsonian mounted reflector. The Dobsonian means the mount is a gun turret. It was named after a Jesuit priest named John Dobson, who was an amateur astronomer, did sidewalk astronomy in San Francisco, and kind of invented this gun turret to move a telescope around easier than on something like this. It was hard to put the big reflectors on a tripod. Again, another panorama of telescopes. See, this on the upper left is a reflector. The white one in the middle has a Dobsonian mount, and it's more like a gun turret, up and down, left and right, or azimuth and alta-azimuth. This is a one in the one lower left hand there. That is a refractor that probably has a really good high quality lens on it, but it's just on a simple tripod mount for like birding. And the one up there with the spiral, that's a tabletop mount that you could use. And these are very satisfying just to look around at the planets. You can see the moons of Jupiter, rings of Saturn, and stuff like that. So here again is a price point of what we call a Dobsonian reflector. All right, the mirror at the bottom, no different than this makeup mirror there. So this is a $400 8-inch manual push around. All right, you have a red dot finder or a secondary finder telescope. To motorize it is an extra $400. Okay, $250, I guess. Same way with a 10-inch. That mirror's 10 inches across. Set price point's about $630. To motorize it is another $360. By motorizing, that means you have a pad in your hand, control pad, and once you line it up to a couple stars, and it tells you how to do that on this control pad, it'll move to a star, and you move it close to it, and then set it. Then it goes to another star, and you set that yes, it's at that star, and then you put M42 Great Nebula of Orion, and the telescope goes to it and keeps tracking all night long, and that's nice to have. But I got a lot of telescopes I push around. Matt Pike says yes, the biggest Dobsonian you can accommodate. This is another Dobsonian. What I love doing, a mother holding up one of her children, looking at the moon probably there, and that's the reward of it, is showing people things they've never seen, like that. These all weigh, I don't know pound wise, but it's taxing me now. 50 pounds. This is 2 sections though. You put the tube in the car, and then you put the mount in the car. And that's another consideration. You don't want it rattling around and whenever you're transporting it. The mirror does get out of alignment. These get out of alignment very easily. We call that collimation. The refracting telescopes like this do not get out of collimation that much. This is what is the rage for Santa Claus. $449. It was $500. This is called Sea Star. It is no bigger than this smart tablet. You can see it's a little bit thicker, but not much. Only about 3 inches thick at the most. This has a computer, a mobile motors in it, and you just set it out in the yard. All right. I was next to one when we stargazed Saturday out at the biolab. Some of us Brevard Astronomical Society club members, and one guy had this beside his telescope. Now, what it does is it automatically finds an object and then guides it. Real pinpoint. That is the Whirlpool Nebula on the left, and that is the M13 globular cluster on the right. And the M13 is 45 30-second exposures put together. And the Whirlpool is, I think, 10-second exposures, like 30 of them. So what it does, it takes a picture, all right, takes a photo, and then it layers another 10-second photo on it. Then it layers another 10-second photo on it. Then another one. Then another one. After another 10 seconds, it layers that on it. And what that does is it is like taking a 5-minute exposure. If you have a 300-second exposure, all right, 30 10-second exposures, 300 seconds, okay, divided by 60, that's 5 minutes. Now, why don't you just take a 5-minute exposure? Because of the light pollution that would accumulate during that 5-minute exposure, and because of the jiggling of the telescope here, it's basically a camera with a lens on it, but it is phenomenal. And you can be, you don't have eyepieces with it. You don't get any eyepieces with it. I've seen several people have bought these. There's other brand names out there again. So This was invented by a company that specialized in $2,000 to $5,000 cameras that are just a CCD chip. So that is something that I wouldn't mind seeing under my tree, even though I got plenty of telescopes. That's the reward. We all want instant gratification to take home this view of the moon's craters by these little girls is nothing like them seeing before their eyes as they're sitting in the living room, and the telescope is downloading a galaxy far, far away in a ball of 200,000 stars that orbits our Milky Way galaxy. So, again, this is really was a kind of novel thing 3 years ago, not anymore, and it's very affordable. They've come down. They used to be around $1,000 price point. So, smart telescope, all in one. And if they would make it bigger, the eyepiece, it would be even better. All right, but we'll see where this goes in the next generation. Eyepieces we were talking about. A plethora of eyepieces. From the bottom ones here are $30 to $50 each. The ones above my head are $300 to $500 each. No kidding. All right. They're made for a certain purpose. A Barlow lens is a doubler or a tripler, or 1.25 is a Barlow lens. Those of you photographers may have they don't call it a Barlow lens, they call it a magnification lens for your camera body. You put that on at, what do they call them there? I have a 2X that you put on between your camera and the lens, and that makes the 300 millimeter lens a 600 millimeter lens. That's what a Barlow lens does. Barlow, not sure where that name came from, but it's just a doubler or 1.5 times or a lot. That's different lenses, different manufacturers. There's also different ways. All these lenses have 2 or 3 different glass lenses in them. And then again, how those are coated and so forth make it easier to see. You see, the ones on the bottom have a very small exit pupil that your eye can see, where at the top you get a hint that exit pupil is a lot bigger for your eye relief there. Here is a $5,218.80 Starfront Observatory, complete there. All right, that's got the camera. This is the camera to photograph. These are not made to look through, though you can look through them visually, but they're more made for astrophotography. You got a hepped up mount there that's computerized, a nice telescope there. That's a 7 one-time aperture refracting telescope, 75 millimeters is refracting of that. So it's not a whole lot bigger than this 60 millimeter. All right, but it's 70. But its specs are made to match this camera, which is another fine tuned thing of our hobby. All right. And of course, I want you to get out and get under the stars with the planets. Let me show you one other attachment that I brought in. I have this little Pentax Q10 camera that I've had. This is like the second one I've had. It's a full 35 millimeter, very small, with a lot of features I like professionally, but I can take the lens off, and there's the CCD chip in there, and put on an adapter made for this Pentax Q10. All right. And now I have an astro camera. I can slap this into the eyepiece of a 1.25 inch eyepiece holder and see the pictures on the back as I'm taking them, or even take a movie. I've done some movies of the moon as it's passed in front of it. So this is an adapter that most 35 millimeter cameras have, called a T-mount and telescope adapter. That's another $25 to $50 depending on your camera to have this. Of course, it's clear. It's just, this is all the The extra space is the match the proper focal length, so you can use it with a telescope there. So thought I'd throw that in there real quick in there. And I'm just going to go through a little bit of astronomy. Very informative show. Thank you, Dean Babcock. Appreciate that. You want to get, if a young kid does not have a planisphere, good star maps, you can get him that. Or get him this $5,000, Marty. But skymaps.com, great place to get free downloaded maps. You see the Milky Way there. I was looking at the summer Milky Way Saturday night. It's still up there, but it's setting fast. There are apps for everything out there. And apps for your phone to look at the night sky are plentiful out there. So download them and enjoy figuring out where the planet Saturn is. Once you figure out Saturn, Jupiter is rising. Jupiter is so bright about 9 o'clock high up in the eastern sky. These are the objects you want to see. That is Charles Messier, a French astronomer, who kept seeing these same objects over and over, and they weren't moving, so he knew they weren't comets. That's what he was called, the Comet Ferret, because of so many comets he discovered. So they annoyed him, and they looked like fuzzy objects only through photography, and that smart telescope can you get results like this. So this was first, you cut your teeth on the deep sky wonders with the Messier list. Just this is how Venus looks in the western sky, about like this. All right, through a telescope. Barely you can see the disk in binoculars, but that's Venus in the west after sunset. Venus, then Jupiter and Saturn. Saturn is next in the sky. It's about directly south, high overhead. There's only 2 stars that are in that area, and the one furthest north or highest overhead is Saturn. The other one is Fomalhaut, called the Lonely One. Jupiter's rising in the west, east. I mean, you can't miss it. And after midnight, you'll see Mars starting to get big and red in Gemini, the twins. The rings are not disappearing; they're going to be edge on. But this is what you're not going to see it like this. That's the Hubble telescope, or you're going to see it more like this through a telescope. And the rings are going to go edge on and almost disappear. They will for a couple of weeks, but they're still there. It'll look like a spike right now going through the planet. Jupiter is an easy target in a telescope. That's what you're going to see through this telescope right here. You're going to see the globe, but you're going to see the bands on the globe. This is overexposed to show you the moons. And there's a backyard astronomy shot like you could get of Jupiter in the red spot. Lots of detail to see that's fun to watch. And what's fun is the red spot shown there in about 3 hours will be over here. It moves so fast, 10 hours. So you're watching for 2 or 3. You go out early in the evening and then go back out, you'll see objects move. So there is without the moons. That's an exposure, overexposed to get the moons. Excuse me. And then that's the right exposure. You don't get the moons. I watched a moon real close to the planet last night disappear behind it. Just took it about 15 minutes and enjoyed watching that. Mars is coming closest to Earth in January, but it's not that close. You'll be able to see the only structures on an alien surface that we can see from Earth, except for the moon. And January is going to be that big. Right now in November, it's about half that size. You might see the polar cap if you know what you're looking for. But this is only going to be not that big of a closeness to us. I remember 2001, it was, or 2003, it was 35 million miles away in about 25 arc seconds. That's only 14 arc seconds. And it's still going to be about 50 million miles away. Since man knew how to make telescopes, they wanted to build the biggest and the best. This is the giant of Leviathan, where a Windsor built this. There's a backyard telescope by Leslie Peltier in Lima, Ohio, Delphus, Ohio, actually. And he discovered lots of comets with that from his backyard. in northwest Ohio near my home growing up. And then Marty's question of the day.
Well, Steve Holcomb got it correct.
STS 35. You can't stump Steve. STS 35. There's the telescope, a suite of 3 telescopes. Wisconsin had something to do with it, and Johns Hopkins. Also, I wanted to mention that was Guy Gardner, who we've seen out to Space Center a lot, was part of that mission. And John Lowndes, Robert Parker, Ron Paris, Sam Durant were the astronomers on there. Sam recently passed away. Ron Paris has passed away. And Vance Brand is, I think, 90 years old. So, but that's the answer to that. It was the first all dedicated to one science, and then they flew it again. And that was May 1990 was the first flight, and then they flew it again, STS 67. So thank you, Marty. Let's see if we got a big shout out to everybody. Matt Pike, thank you for watching. Nick Sedler, we've always dreamed about having big telescopes in space, even servicing it in one of the early concepts of the Hubble Space Telescope there. And now the Webb telescope. Rewriting astro space history, the Webb telescope is. It's just unbelievable how much bigger this is than the 9-foot diameter Hubble. It's 18 feet or 20-some feet across. And we've been showing you the cosmic reef. All right, one of the Hubble's legacy pictures there from its 30th anniversary. And so with that, I want to just let everybody keep looking up. All right, you'll never know what you see, whether with binoculars, a telescope, or a star map. The important thing is that you get out under the stars. And I think if you do, I truly think that you'll find some peace of mind, something about you maybe that you didn't know before, or your mind will start wandering as it looks up about just who in the world is looking back. So until tomorrow, when we're going to do some current events and some space history, thanking Marty for a great job on Streamlabs, and thanking all of you for watching. I'm Mark Marquette saying we can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us.